So in this video, I'm going to take you through my training in its entirety. I'm talking structure, volume, nutrition, how I track it all. For some context, my name is Matt Kaminer. I'm a professional triathlete representing South Africa, currently ranked around 250th in the world. I mostly focus on middle distance racing, so half Ironman distance, and my PB in that is 3 hours and 47 minutes. This next year, I'm really trying to build myself into the ranks and push towards that top 150 in the world. One thing I'll say before we properly get into it is that this is my training. This is the training I've worked with my coach, Josh Lewis, on, and it works for me. I am not a typical pro triathlete in that I am a full-time student as well, which comes with its time constraints. But this is what we found works with me load-wise, so the amount of intensity and volume I'm getting, and gets me in that progression to getting into a better state going into the next year. So first, looking at the structure of my week. So I'm going to give you an example of a week I've just done, which follows the structure of pretty much every week building into the race season. So this is what we call like kind of the off-season build phase of training as I go into races in late January and then into April and May. It follows relatively the same structure each week, but I'm going to give you a week I've just done, which has the actual data that I can implement into that structure. So starting off with Monday, this is almost always a hard swim and hard bike day. So the hard swim I'll do in the morning, and that is normally threshold and a longer swim with the main set of 3 to 4K. An example, like I did in the week just gone, was 10 400s. Session could be anything. It could be 10 400s, 10 300s, it could be 10 200s, 10 100s. It really can vary from week to week. It's just about getting that hard swim done first thing on a Monday morning. Then I'll be in uni for the rest of the day and I'll do my hard bike in the evening. Sometimes I'll do an aerobic bike on the Monday, and sometimes I'll do a hard bike, and I'll switch it between the Friday just depending on how I feel. That hard bike can be anything. For example, it could be 6 by 5 minutes, it could be 5 by 10 minutes, it could be VO2 reps, so 10 by 3 minutes, but it's essentially getting like 30 minutes to an hour of high intensity with relatively little recovery in there. Once I've ticked those off, it's a pretty hard day, double threshold essentially, double intensity with the swim and the bike, and then go into Tuesday. Now Tuesday, I normally start off with an aerobic swim. So this is just quite long, 5 to 6K normally, and do that in the morning. And then in the evening, I'll do a run with the athletics club. So I do get a session from my coach, but I often just run in with the athletics club, and that can be a session that varies from like 30 to 40 minutes. Something like 6 by 5 minutes or 3 by 10 minutes with 5 by 1 minutes at the end. It's essentially working around that threshold and sometimes a bit higher. So after 2 pretty intense days, you've had a swim and a bike intensity on a Monday and a run intensity on the Tuesday. Wednesday is purely aerobic. It's just a long aerobic day. It also works really well with my university where we get the afternoon off. So I get a swim and run done in the morning, normally long aerobic, and then an easy 40 to 50 minute run. And then in the afternoon, when we've got time off uni, we get 3 hours in, just super easy, chatting with each other, getting that base up. So now we've done a double intensity Monday, an intensity day Tuesday, a long aerobic day Wednesday, and Thursday is just a shorter aerobic day. Same 3 sessions as well as Wednesday, do a swim, a bike and a run. None of them anything special, just aerobic swim, normally hour to an hour and a half, an aerobic bike, normally an hour, and then an easy run, 40 to 50 minutes. Friday, depending on if I've done the hard bike on the Monday or if I do it on the Friday, it will be another swim. This will be the hard swim, so essentially like another threshold swim, or it could be even faster paces, and we do some 25s and 50s really fast. And in the evening, we do either the hard bike or the aerobic bike, whichever one we haven't done. So far, Monday to Friday, we've done the hardest swim, the hardest bike, the hardest run, and a lot of aerobic volume. The weekend is kind of building on that again, and it's a lot more aerobic. So because I'm training quite a high volume, especially around university, I have to be careful with managing the intensity, but still trying to build up that base really well. So Saturdays, I'll have a long swim. This will be the longest of the week, sometimes up to 6K, and then a long ride in the afternoon or kind of mid-morning. And that will be 3 to 3.5 hours, depending on where people are riding. And if it's indoors, it'll be 3.5 hours. That's a pretty long day, 5 hours. Normally knackers you out, but it's all pretty aerobic and very little intensity in there. Then going on to Sunday, we've got a long run day, hour to an hour and a half long run. Again, pretty aerobic, nothing crazy. And we will do a technical swim. So this will just be an hour, getting the fins on, doing lots of drills, and just building up that volume. This structure is pretty much exactly the same every week. The sessions naturally change. Some weeks will be VO2 focused, some weeks will be threshold focused, some weeks I'll have more aerobic stuff. And as we build into races, I'll start to include more race specific intensity. So for example, that long ride on the weekend may include 90 minutes of kind of zone 3 or close to race pace work. But in general, it's that structure. It normally hovers between like 23, 25 hours a week. It rarely changes much more than that. Looking at mobility, I don't have a specific gym day. I mean, me and my coach have discussed this. I've done gym in the previous years, and I've actually been really fortunate, being quite durable, but I do a bit of mobility myself. I do generally 10 to 15 minutes a day of kind of post-run session, post-bike session. I'll just stretch the legs out. I use an app, and it just kind of talks me through what I need to be doing post-run, pre-swim. I'm not too structured with it. I just like to get in about 10 minutes a day of it. Okay, so now I've talked through the structure. I've talked through how it kind of changes throughout the year leading into races. Now I'm going to talk about how I track it all. So recently in the swim, I've stopped using a watch. I find it very frustrating. It's a very triathlete thing to measure your swims with your watches and be lapping it every single time. So instead I have a Polar Verity heart rate sensor, which just goes under my goggle, measures my heart rate and the time and the distance as well. And that's really useful. And then I'll write in the paces afterwards. On the run, I use a watch. I use the Coros Pace Pro 3 class watch. Can't really go too wrong with it. But again, like all these watches are great. It doesn't need to be that one. And then on the bike, I almost always go off power. I'll use a bike computer and the aciomas on my bike pedals. And that will kind of dictate what intensity I need to go at. So swim is largely based off of pace, and then I'll look back at the heart rate. Bike is almost all on power, and then I'll see how that correlates to my heart rate. And then run is on the easy runs based off of heart rate, and on the hard runs generally based off of pace and just general RPE or feel. Looking into nutrition, I've kind of done some videos on this, but it is quite an important part of my life in that I have a very busy schedule and I need to make sure that I'm kind of eating enough. I mean, I reckon I'm about 5,000, 6,000 calories a day, which is a lot, but I can't say that it's all healthy. I try and always have a really healthy dinner. That's something I always focus on, and breakfast is normally porridge oats or eggs on toast. Pre-workout, I'll not normally have like a good bit of sugar kind of just before an important session, and then intra-workout I'll normally aim for, depending on the time of year, but I'll aim for 80 to 100 grams on an easy ride and a bit more on a hard ride. And the run I don't normally take intra-workout. After a workout is where it's really important. I try and get fuel in as quickly as I can. So after my morning swim, I'll have my biggest breakfast. After my evening session, I'll have dinner straight after, and that just helps to start the recovery process ahead of the next day. With regards to caffeine, I do have caffeine. I really like it. I have a coffee in the morning normally after my swim, and then I'll have either a Red Bull or an energy drink or another coffee later in the day. So I limit it to 2 pieces of caffeine, normally just before my important session or my session for that day. Everything I do is based off of science and experience that both I have and my coach has. But again, everyone is individual and you can't just kind of replicate this and it's going to work for everyone. And also there are gaps in my knowledge. I am a professional triathlete. I've been doing this sport for a long time, but I can't say that I know everything, and there are gaps in my knowledge and things I may say that are wrong or could be better. But for me, this works and it's been working for the last couple of years. So I thought I'd share it and give my insight information on this. A lot of pro triathletes, pro cyclists, pro runners are extremely secretive about their training, and I don't really see why. I mean, whether you show your training or not, it doesn't affect how you race on race day. I believe being transparent and helping other people in the sport is a really valuable thing I can do. So that's what I've been trying to do here. So hopefully that gives a good indication of the structure, how that changes throughout the year, my nutrition, and how I track that all. I post up on Instagram where I got some comments on there and I've replied to all of those. But if you have any more questions about my training, then please shoot them down in the comments down below.